All right, back, and we're dissecting the Steelers win 23-20 in the most unusual way you can imagine. A full overtime before Boswell got his second kick in after McPherson missed a 29-yarder. All their problems are one thing. But, Andrew, I want to talk to you about the offensive play calling in this game. First of all, I thought Mitch Trubisky was okay, especially early. Then it was kind of a whole rough go. In the overtime, I thought he was at his best. He made 2 critical plays. But I thought the play calling overall was very similar to last year, and I thought they'd do more rollouts, more things of that nature. What did you think of it?
I think we're seeing that it wasn't Ben Roethlisberger's fault. It's the offensive coordinator. I think we're going to be on a year-long discovery mission to see who's really at fault for their mundane or moribund play offensively. And I think right now my conclusion is it's the play caller, who had one great year in college. He was at the right place with Pitt and then fell into his lap again, Tomlin's kid at Maryland, and they got to know each other. And I just think there's probably at least 100 offensive coaches in America who are more qualified to be their offensive coordinator.
I think there's certainly truth to that, but I think we're also seeing that the Steelers' game plan on offense going into this year was, we won't worry about the offensive line. We'll go into a season and just kind of hope we can do things on offense. And that's a terrible tactic. To not do anything in the offseason in terms of the offense, I mean, bring in Mason Cole or somebody like that, but they didn't pay enough attention to the offensive line. And it's coming. You can't game
Well, they paid 3 guys.
Yeah.
But
and they brought in
Troops?
2.
They gave him $29 million.
There's no – what I'm getting at is they shouldn't have drafted Kenny Pickett. I wouldn't have. I would have drafted an offensive lineman high and plug and play.
They obviously have offensive line issues. James Daniel, Mason Cole, the guys that did bring in.
What about Kendrick Green not even getting a hat
Kendrick
today?
Green doesn't even get a hat. I mean,
What does that
obviously. But I'll tell you, I think it's too early to say that the offense wasn't or isn't going to be good. I mean, I think, you know what I mean? Like, there was a lot of just stuff that went on in this game today that was sort of first game, timing issues and execution issues. You've got pretty much a rebuild offensive line. The one thing I'm going to keep going back to, though, and it has to be proven to me until it is, I'm going to believe this, wholeheartedly. Mitch Trubisky, that somehow there was this idea that because he sat behind Josh Allen last year, that we sprinkled some sort of magic dust on him and he was going to become this great quarterback. What we saw today is what he is. He's gritty, he's tough, he's resourceful, he'll make a few plays with his feet, but you know what? Here's the thing about it. A few of those plays he made with his feet, like where he threw it back across his body, far too often those things are going to turn into the interceptions that go the other way. Well, we see that all the time. And that's what he was, and that's what he's been. So, to me, all of this stuff about, all I know is he was good enough to win the game. So, I mean, that's really what
and
they went.
And that's
really, I'm just going to jump in and say I agree with the last sentence, but people harangued Ben for that same exact thing.
I agree.
He had 7 game-winning fourth quarter and overtime drives. And that's why you don't hear me yelling about Trubisky, because I didn't yell about Ben doing those things last year. I defended Ben for that stuff.
This looks a lot like last year.
Yes.
That's the whole point of
this game today reminded me of last year's opener, where the Bills you knew were better than the Steelers, but they made some big mistakes. The Steelers had a couple of big plays. They got a block punt, this and that.
But Paul, some of the stuff that you're writing off, though, is like first-game jitters. Having Derek Watt in the game on 3rd and long is just dumb.
They converted, though.
But I'm saying when
they converted when Derek Watt was in on 3rd and long.
No, that was when they dumped it off over the middle.
Because they can't block anybody, Andrew. Thus, they have to employ someone else.
How about throwing it deep to Miles Boykin?
No, that's inexcusable. I understand.
How about when it's 3rd and 2 and you still throw it short of the sticks? Yeah, I mean, these are things to me that are not going to get cleaned up after one game because they didn't get cleaned up after 18 games last year.
All right, let's talk about quarterbacking specifically. I know how you guys feel, Colin. You say you wouldn't have drafted Pickett. I understand that, just because I think a lot of people thought at the time they needed offensive line help. However, how long do you go with Mason or with Mitch Trubisky if you find that the offense costs yourself a game like today? They could have very easily won that game even before.
But they beat the AFC champs on the road.
It took
in overtime, and he made a play on the free play that was a heck of a play at the end of the football game.
My question is, how long
are we complaining about wins now?
No, we're just being realistic.
I'm not here to.
We're just being realistic. That's what we're just being realistic.
I'm not here to overly defend Mitch Trubisky, but the guy's a game manager, and he went out there and he managed the game. and he beat the defending
And he didn't make a mistake. He did not make a turnover.
He beat the defending AFC champions on their home field.
All it took was his defense to be +5 in turnovers, have 7 sacks, and have the other team's long snapper tear his bicep so they couldn't attempt 3 field goals.
They should have lost that game.
I have a very valid point, I think.
Come on.
If one of the big pieces of ammunition for people saying don't play Kenny Pickett was you don't want to play him behind this line, then why all of a sudden do you now want to play him after you see that
I never
line?
said that.
I'm not saying you did, but that seems to be
I'll
the next step
this.
for a lot of people. Well, you got to play Kenny Pickett.
I think that's an inevitable step.
I'll
I'm
say
just
this.
asking how
I will
soon
say
should it
this.
be considered?
Today, though, is why Mike Tomlin picked Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, I agree
a
with that.
veteran guy who has, who's able to find a way to scrap it together to win. You know, we can argue all day about the fact that they couldn't kick field goals on the other side because of the long snapper, but at the end of the day, when they needed a couple of plays down, that's why they made him the starter. But to Colin's point, he's a game manager. It's what he's always. That's what. If he's a game manager and your defense is +5 in turnovers every week, you're going to be great.
And when you win, he's not going to make a change now anyway.
He shouldn't.
No, I
shouldn't
agree.
change the quarterback.
But I'm saying
I don't say this to rip him, but I think the other 2 quarterbacks would have won the game today too.
I don't.
Really?
I don't.
I think they both would have. If I give Kenny Pickett or Mason Rudolph +5, I think they win.
If you give him +5 in turnovers, absolutely.
I don't know.
And they might have won it in regulation.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting how this plays out. You got a team like New England coming in without maybe Mac Jones.
Why? What happened there?
He got a back injury. He needs to get looked at. You could very easily now go into the next 3 games with whoever the backup is. It Hoyer? Who's the backup?
Yes, Hoyer.
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 You could just say that.
Wasn't
all
he on
the
the
time.
Steelers at one point? Yeah.
Hoyer, and then
About
you have
5 minutes.
Brissett, and then you have Joe Flacco.
Right.
The Steelers could win some games.
There's no
here.
way Joe Flacco will still be a starter by then. No
Zach
way.
Wilson may never be back
No
before
way. If
then.
they do, they ought to take the team and get him out of New
Continue
York.
yelling at each other. We'll be back with more right after this on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown.
The Sports Showdown is sponsored by GMC Sierra.